Oh. Where's my...
Get them going.
Keep these youngsters in check here.
Right? I told you we'd have fun on this council.
We are.
I told you. Okay. Are we recording? Okay. All right. Welcome back. All right, we're going to head into our work items. First, we're going to have a discussion on fiber consultant proposal by Ryan Judd.
Okay, I'll talk into the mic so everybody can hear me. Yeah. All right. We brought this to council last council meeting, and so we've kind of gone over most of this. Just for refresher, I'll go over a little bit more, maybe add a few things. I thought I would start off with just kind of a brief history of what we have in Kaysville. Currently, we have fiber optics. We installed fiber optics between our buildings in 2005, and so for 13 years we've had about 3.5 miles of fiber optics between each of the buildings. When we installed the fiber, we installed 48 strands between the operations center and City Hall. And it was subsequently moved to the police department. That 48 strands was funded by both Kaysville City and Davis County. We shared the cost. So Davis County has rights to 24 of those 48 strands, and their intent was to connect the then county library and the county admissions center together so that they could network those buildings. So that's currently what we have, and the proposal is what's shown up here on the map. And what you see here is 9 miles, approximately 9.5 miles of fiber. Most of it is overhead, about 75%, and 25% of it is underground. Maybe a little less, but essentially, there's that fiber is set up so that it would be redundant, and it would have redundancy, so it wouldn't fail if a piece was cut somewhere in the middle. What our needs are is our primary need is to connect the substations, and we have a desperate need to bring data to those substations. Each one of those substations has needs for security and access control, which we don't have yet, but we would like to have. We need to have. We also have UAMPS meters at each one of those locations, and so that's how they read our meters and provide us power. Future needs for this fiber would be to connect our parks. We pass nearly five parks, I believe, with this route, and so we would like to connect the parks in the future. We would, and there's also other projects that we would like to kind of utilize this for like SCADA or telemetry. So we essentially, we brought this to you last week, and we've gone over it a little bit. I've talked to each one of you a little bit about it. We did have a lot of comments from the citizens over the week, and I'm really grateful for that too, because our plan was to incorporate the contract for building the O&M, the operation and maintenance, and the it slipped my mind, the IRU altogether, and but my mind has been changed about how that should work. We need to break that up into 3 different parts. So what we brought to you today is the contract for just the construction of the fiber optic, and in the future we'll bring to you an operational maintenance agreement and an IRU. But we don't need those things to get started with this project. They are just they'll just help us maintain the project in the future. And incidentally, the 13 years that we've had our existing fiber, we've never had any problems with it, not at all. We've never done any repairs or maintenance on it. We just haven't needed to. So maybe that's lucky, but I think that speaks to the robust nature of fiber optics. And I believe that this ring will also carry us through for the next 20 plus years. So with that, I just leave it open for you to questions if you have any.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. And
I'm so sorry. I just thought you ought to mention that we brought this to the Power Board.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you very much.
Good point.
We did bring it to the Power Board, and they are in favor of us, of council moving it forward to an action item. So we would like you to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from council? I know you've done a lot of work in the last 2 weeks to answer questions, so it could be that nobody has any questions. Councilmember Hanson.
I have one that she addressed individually, but I'd like to ask it publicly.
Yes.
I think it was a question that came up is you add these additional lines. It's like, what's our need? Because we only need a few of the strands, but we're going with 72 strands. But to add, an extra 36 or whatever, how much is that? Okay, so that was a question that Dave Adams actually asked last week, and I didn't have an answer, but I do have an answer for that this week. The cost of fiber to go from 48 to 72 is $9,300 and some odd dollars, roughly, to add that to the project. It's very insignificant in the scope of the project. I did reach out to the contractor, and they're willing just to put that into the contract as 72 strands. And so you'll see in the contract that it's actually not 48 but 72.
Thank you. And so that's basically just more lanes on the highway, as it were.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any additional? Councilmember Adams. And please speak into the mic so people at the back can hear you.
Where did I read it was 60 lines, and it was 12 lines that are needed and 60 additional lines are coming in? I did read that somewhere. So have we modified or so?
Yes, between last week we had 48. We were talking 48, and we've bumped it to 72.
This project demands 48, and it will use all 48 of those?
Well, the city will use 12 strands.
Okay.
So we'll use 12 strands. That's
from
one
the 12
single.
to 48, who's going to use those?
The additional fiber, the additional dark fiber. The additional dark fiber can be utilized for many other types of projects. We're going to set up an IRU, which is an irrefutable right of use contract, where we can sell that or lease that fiber, so to speak, to a third party who can utilize that fiber strands for whatever use they have.
Who will sell and lease that? The city will?
The city would lease it, yes.
We'll be a little bit of a municipal fiber company?
No.
So to speak, yeah.
I disagree.
Like quasi. Okay. So I'm still not clear. It's probably my fault, so if you'll allow me. So we need 12 lines for this project, right?
That's correct.
For what you're currently asking for, that staff is asking for. So from the 12 lines to the 48 lines, who's going to use those? And from the 48 to the 72, is it, total, yeah, who's going to use those? Or is it really we've got 12 lines that this project needs, and we're throwing in 60 additional lines for future use? I'm confused on that.
So for the actual project to connect the substations, we only need 2 strands.
Okay.
So two strands is what we need to make that connection. You need a strand to send and a strand to receive on the fiber.
The rest of that will be dark, and we'll use that as capacity for future use. For whatever city needs are. So, for example, we might use 2 strands for the substation connections, and we might use 2 separate strands for parks. And there might be something else in 10 years that we need it for. But currently, our biggest need is the substations, and so we're going to make those connections. That's the primary reason of this project.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. That's the primary reason, and we're looking to, capitalize on that, piggyback on it with future other things. So now, let me ask about budget. Maybe this question will shift off of you. I know that's not your realm. So where's the money coming for this project?
I know that.
Well, it's really not my realm, so I'm going to defer it to Shane, I think.
This project is slated to be paid for through Power Department funds. So we have put aside money. We've kind of vacillated between this project being part of the AMI project because they're certainly related, where we need fiber to these substations for telemetry and SCADA, and our AMI meters will obviously piggyback on that. So we're choosing to address them separately because we're contracted with separate companies to do them, but we have set aside funds in the Power Department for both the AMI project and this fiber project as well.
So for the strict connection of substations and AMI, which are both power related, you would need, what, 4 of those lines?
2 strands.
Just 2 for AMI 2.
That's all we need to connect the substations, yeah.
Okay, so my question then would be, we're really looking at 2 versus 70. So I disagree with where this money is coming from. We're underneath the laws of Proposition 5.
Point of order. That is not a question.
Okay.
That's probably true. So if you would like
Thanks
to
for
hold
that.
that comment for later, all right? But thanks for tipping your hand. So now
Man,
we
was
know.
that like tell up?
Guess what?
So,
all right. Who else? Do you have Councilmember Barber?
Okay, just circle back to me for questions. Go ahead.
I sure will. After Councilmember Barber and others.
This is questions.
This is questions, yes.
The question for how the city will distribute with the municipality fiber company, I think, could you clarify that question a little bit? What will the city's role be in providing and extending this fiber? I'm just trying to clarify one of the questions that came up.
I think I know what she's asking. We are not going into business.
Yes.
We are not going into business selling internet.
I just wanted to clarify that.
That is not going to happen.
We're not.
That's a question.
That is not going to happen. All right?
Could I ask a follow-up? Are we at some point thinking about it? You and I had conversations in December, and you said you were wanting to do that. Are we long-term?
I personally think that I would love to see fiber in the city. I don't think it's the city's job to do that if there's a private industry to do it. And so that's where I'm at. And so that's why we are not really talking about municipal fiber, because we are not doing municipal fiber. But if a company would like to come in and lease from us, so we make money off of them doing a fiber to the home, then we're set up to do that. So we now have something to lease. That's why we would have excess capacity, right? So that we could rent it out.
You and I had that conversation together, so I'll ask no more. You understand why I'm asking that. You had a position.
I believe in fiber. I believe in fiber.
Mayor Witt,
yes.
Councilmember Adams, this seems like it's drifting into discussion,
It is.
so we should probably stay on questions at this point.
Thank you. All right, other questions? Any questions on this side?
No, I think they've been answered.
Councilmember Hanson.
Just one more question. Just with the concern of payment, is there any way to pay down, like what would it be just for the, minimal needs for the power versus adding the extra lines? We talked about it being a nominal cost, and so maybe could those be split apart? And you don't have to answer that. The contract's one thing, and I guess the way I understand the contract is just that the work is just, putting the line in, and whether you put in 2 or 72, the cost difference.
Yeah, really the cost difference is the cost of installing the fiber is in the labor. That's where it's at.
Drilling underground for the underground stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's where the cost is. When you go from 24 strands to 72, the cost is, between the two is.
You said it was about $9,600.
It's about 1,700, 1,700, $17,000. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what I was asking earlier was, I think it's 17, because we were asking a smaller, jump was the 9,000 you gave. But that's okay.
We could certainly separate that amount out, but I guess the question would be which department is benefiting from that, and which department should own it. And I think if the power company pays for all of it, the power company should own it. And if there is future lease revenues, that may be a power company revenue generator too. So if you want the general fund to own the additional fiber and lease it out, that's probably fine too. I think it's a good discussion point, probably something we would need to bring Dean in on. But I think the point is it is a pretty small amount, additional amount.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Garn.
So just to clarify, there's two numbers thrown out, 9,000 and 17,000.
Sorry, the difference is between 48 and 72, it's about $9,000, and then between 24 and 72, it's about 17.
Okay, and been established we wouldn't need all those 78 strands for just the city's need, or just the city's need right now. However, just to put it in perspective, to go from 48 to 72. $9,000 is what, about 2% of the total cost? What would it cost to come back in if you don't do it now and then you need the additional capacity later to come in and redo it?
I don't have an exact number, but I'm sure it would be significant.
Significantly more expensive, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have a question, Councilmember Adams? Were you clearing your throat?
Thank you for that. Yes, I did, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead.
Couple questions. One is, and you can choose to revisit this if you want later, does the city attorney have the ability to take action on council members like we just witnessed? Or should that have been you to me?
It should have been me recognizing it, and so I think that our city attorney was helping me. I'm still new to this process. Thank you.
Technically, I guess I serve as the parliamentarian as well, which is the role of the parliamentarian to step in and do clarifications and points of order.
Bypassing the chairman of our board.
Well, I think even Mayor Witt has asked for clarification on times when she sees that when we see things that need to be changed slightly.
We don't need to labor it due to time. So the question is, okay, another question: how much is 2 versus 72 lines? And if you would like some understanding on that, I'll offer.
I don't have that number.
Okay. A guesstimate would probably be from the numbers you throw in the mid-20s, from the numbers I'm seeing. Why haven't we given consideration to where that money should be coming from? This is not a question for you. You're not the budget guy, so you're just dead center. But, why haven't we appropriated the budgeting for this, or the proposed budgeting for this, from the appropriate funds? Is the power company also going to be a fiber company? Is that allowed in the bylaws of the power company?
We don't have a fiber company, so somebody has to pay for it, and it is
that maybe power will own these lines and power will lease these lines out.
Right. Well, I don't know if the general fund or water is any more appropriate to do a fiber project when the purpose of the fiber project is to link the substations together. We're just trying to make a good decision here and not have to come back in here and put in fiber after the fact. That would be very, very expensive. So if there's a good discussion about where that should come from, we're open to that as well.
Mayor, could I clarify my question?
Actually, no. I think we've belabored this point long enough.
I'll do it in discussion then. Thank you.
All right. Very good. All right. I would entertain a motion if we've.
This is just a work item.
Yes, but we still need to move it to
move to
the action item. Yeah. All right.
I'll make a motion that we move the fiber project to an action item next week.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Barber and seconded by Councilmember Garn. And we will now have discussion. Councilmember
So
Adams.
the explanation I'm getting at is the 2 lines I don't have a huge problem with if that's a severe need for the power department. And I don't have a problem with the project overall, per se. What I have a problem with is the 2 to the 72. That should be budgeted in different ways. It should be figured out, beforehand. I've heard it really, as I sit here and listen, stated that power was just going to pay for all this. Well, yeah, the power has a huge, from the hip, I think they have around $7 million in reserve, but they also have Prop 5, which restricts the money coming out of their funding from doing anything other than core power purposes. So the 2 lines, yeah, budgeting, it seems to make sense that budgeting would come from the power funds because it's serving their needs. But the other 70 lines, I don't care if it's $3,000, 1.5%, or $30,000. The principle of the law states, I actually was just reading the state auditor's letter on this week that came to us years ago. But I think we need to be looking at where that's budgeted from, and I'm a little bit disappointed that we just figured, and this is not aimed at you whatsoever, it's hard not to look at you. But I'm a little bit disappointed that this wasn't, allocated budget-wise properly from the get-go. And, the resistance to me to bring this stuff up is, daunting, but to say the least, this is just fair game stuff to talk about. We ought to be talking about it. Is it proper for the power department to pay for all 72 lines? I'm not going to ask you, Mr. Manager.
Yes.
Could you explain that?
I think I kind of already did. I feel like that this is a power project, and this is why we're doing it. And we'd like to add more lines to make sure we don't need the lines in the future. If there's other departments that use these lines, they ought to pay for it. But right now, this power department's the only one we're going to use these lines.
It feels like we're using the power department as the bank. So.
All right, thank you.
Was my time up?
I forgot to time you. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't. I just
else?
think out of respect, though, before you cut me off,
You paused. You paused.
Or...
Any other comments at this point? Councilmember Page.
No, I like the idea of going with the bigger. I've seen so many times where the city, they make decisions on current use, and then all of a sudden down the road they have to make all these changes, and it really costs a lot of money. And I think that, especially the age we're going into, we're going to be hugging each other saying that we made that decision if we go with the bigger capacity, because we will use it in the future. And I think that's smart. And I also agree with the city's take on letting this be under the umbrella of the power company. It is going to be put on all their poles and everything else, and the maintenance is going to come through them as well. And I just think it's a smart way of approaching it.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? So we go ahead.
No comment.
Oh,
okay.
First of all, I'd just like to clarify, I did a poor job before of asking my question, but I was trying to allude to one of the questions I got a lot and why I'm really glad that we put this back to another work session. I know it's extra time on staff and extra time to come in here, but it worked really well. The process proved itself because we had time for resident input, we had time for all of us to become more educated, and staff to put a few more things made available in our packet. So first of all, thank you, and thank you for your patience, Ryan and Dean and staff, and all of my many, many questions. So what I was trying to say before is whether a question comes in that I like to represent well is the city's role in this project. And at the project at hand, the city's role is really clear. We're bringing power for our own purposes, to provide our ring, to bring to our substations. It's really clear on that, and that's why I was trying to say I think we're really appropriate in the city's involvement and the project that we have at hand for us. It's just to bring fiber to the city, create our ring, and then I've also been really impressed. One of the questions I had a lot was on the different bids that we had come in. There were, obviously different bids. We went with one of the lower ones, and I'm glad that we provided the Connect's actual contract. And if you go through and read that, I think you'll see it's a very unique situation. That's why it was brought to us. Kaysville went out with our proposal, and they met our specifications. And in reading through this, it looks really great in this section of it. The final thing is on the redundancy. I think a lot of people ask the question of what reliability can we look for, but even though we have had no problems with the one strand that we've had in the past, I think by creating this redundant ring, I think the question many residents are asking can be put to rest, that we'll have both redundancy and a firm contract from Connect. So, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Garn.
Thank you. Yeah, just one comment during the question, during your presentation at the beginning, where you said that the three contracts are separated out. As I'd talked with you earlier, the reason that's so important is it gives the city maximum flexibility to use different vendors, for example, for maintenance. So if you're not pleased with the Connect vendor, you can use a different vendor. And that's really a great and important distinction between maybe not mentioning any other cities, but maybe when they were early adopters and they went with a single source and they were locked in. So I appreciate you being able to give the city maximum flexibility, both for uses and to ensure quality, and also to keep costs down as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have motion second. Are we ready to vote? Let's start with Councilmember Garn.
Aye.
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 Project's great, just want to see the budgets allocated properly. Nay.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. It'll be on action item in February. Thank you. All right. How quick can you be with AMI? Do we need to extend the meeting? Is my question.
I can go fast.
Let's go for it.
So last week we visited the AMI project. I can give you a little bit of background. We started this way back in 2006, April 2006. We visited Idaho Falls and visited with Mark Reed and Jackie Flowers. Jackie Flowers is UAMP's president, I think. Anyway, we were quite impressed with their system and learned a lot from them. Subsequently, we toured Provo City in June of 2016, and we're very impressed with their system also. And they had a lot of things that they had learned, and so we started an RFP process in May of 2017, and we released our RFP in July of 2017. So in September of 2017, we started an interview process, and we interviewed several different vendors, actually 3 of the 4 vendors that we had proposals from. Those were Honeywell, Eaton, Landis+Gyr, and Census. We ended up interviewing Honeywell, Eaton, and Landis+Gyr. And staff was very happy with what we were seeing with Eaton. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. During that interview process, we had the Power Commission participate with us in those interviews. And last week we took this presentation and we had a discussion with the Power Commission, and they voted to recommend that council move this to an action item. I'll leave that with questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Hanson.
Just a quick question, and I asked this too, just before action item, if it gets so moved, and just to find out salvage value costs with the old units. We talked about the age of the system. New developments have newer units. Is there any salvage value? Just to look into that.
With the older units?
Yeah, I'm not saying the old ones. I'm just saying the more recent ones that were put in, if there is any salvage value to them.
Yeah, so I did some research on that today.
Okay.
There's 950 units that are less than 5 years old out there right now, and the majority of the units out there were installed. So our initial AMI system was put in 1998. That's 20 years ago, and at that time they retrofitted a lot of meters, more than 1,000. And at that time there was only roughly 4,000 meters in the system. So they retrofitted to make the AMR system work with old meters. So in our system, probably more than half of those meters are over 30 years old, which is crazy old. And and subsequently they've been installing new meters since then. But so really what salvage there is just in like material, so copper and whatnot. And we would just have to take that to a salvage yard. We deal with those on a regular basis. I guess I don't really deal with them on a regular basis, but the power department and the water department deal with those on a regular basis. So I'm sure they would be able to do that. The meters that are actually good, those that are 5 years or newer, we could take those and put those on a public auction. So,
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to move this to an action item. Go ahead, James.
I motion that we move this to an action item.
Thank you. A second.
Second the motion.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Councilmember Hanson, seconded by Councilmember Adams. Any further discussion? No? Let's vote. Let's start with Councilmember Page.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We now need to extend the meeting so that we can do the rest of our work. So
moved.
Second.
Okay. Let's start with Councilmember Adams.
Voting?
We're voting to extend the meeting till the end of our agenda.
Brand new rule being broken already?
I know, right?
Nay. Nay.
Okay, it's a nay for you. Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Let's get this done.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. All right. Okay. But now, it is a good thing we extended it, though, because it's public comment. And had we not, we would not be able to have a public comment. And I like to hear our residents.
Well, that's
So, all right. First, we'll have Brig Lewis, then Dean Wall, followed by Greg Ferguson.
I know you allow 3 minutes.
3 minutes,
Can I
correct.
take an extra minute and answer one of his questions on the meters
Can you answer afterwards? That would be great.
after my 3 minutes?
In person, just 3 minutes.
The rest of you would appreciate the answers too, though.
We'll listen when you
Okay.
tell them, okay?
I'm concerned about this yellow card that come in the mail, and I would appreciate first off that we move this call to the public back to the early time of the meeting, because this cuts into my my bedtime. Seriously, I'm not as young as some of you folks are. But road and street repairs have historically been a normal part of the city budget process. Those repairs are planned and budgeted a year in advance. To propose a road fee on our utility bill suggests that the normal budgeting process is broken down. Either the budget amount is inadequate for the work needed, or the money was spent on some other project that was not in the budget. Either way, it is a failure of the city council and city personnel to follow their budget. I have heard that the monthly fee was around $10. That equates to roughly $1 million a year in additional funding for the city. $1 million budget deficit is a sign that someone has not done their job. Before the citizens are saddled with an extra $120 a year, I would suggest the city council take a careful look at the budget and see where they can get the spending back under control. The citizens have already been saddled with a costly police station, and now they want to double that amount of increase in money for road fees. Many of the citizens of Kaysville are retired, do not have extra funds just sitting around. Adding a road fee to the utility bill, to me, is sort of a sneaky way to do it because many people will simply not notice it's there and just pay the bill. It is an affront to the Kaysville citizens to keep pushing for more money. Why can't we balance the budget and stick to it? Kaysville already has saved significant dollars this year on planned projects. Why not use some of that money for roads? If Kaysville is so strongly convinced it needs additional funds, why not increase property taxes? Yes, it would take a public hearing, but at least we can deduct property taxes from our income taxes. We can't deduct utility fees. Keep in mind that a property tax increase is more fair than a utility fee for public works. Property taxes are assessed as a percentage of the value of the property. In some of the older parts of Kaysville where people have lower property values and they are retired and living on fixed incomes, they should pay less in the larger homes of West Kaysville. It is not fair to levy a road fee only on the fact that you live in Kaysville. And any increase in funding should be a percentage related to property value. I am against the assessment of a road fee on the utility bills on general principles. Kaysville has sufficient money to do almost anything it wants. I think the city is squandering its budget funds on pet projects rather than fixing infrastructure. Before I would vote for increasing city income, I would want to see how we got to this point. I say no on the utility road fee, not until we see some real data, and not from some third-party study group, as they only muddy the water and create the illusion of a real need when one does not exist. I say no on the road fee.
Well done. Right at 3 minutes.
But I would like to answer these questions.
Okay.
So that you can
Afterwards, you sure may. Okay. Dean Wall.
Yeah, my name's Dean Wall. I'm bringing up again the parking in front of our houses fees that we have. I got a call back from Mayor Witt, and I appreciate that. But I have one other thing that I promised, and I'm not representing Davis High School, but I promised them that I would bring this to you guys. They've talked with the Board of Education. Can you bring up okay, on the south side of Davis High School, the road that goes up there? What they see if I can use this here. So clumsy. Have 2 right feet.
Where's Steve? He was always so good at this.
Old school, just move it.
What they've approached the Utah Board of Education about widening that road on the south side and taking it up to where the brine portion of it is, and adding about almost a little over 125 more parking stalls there. I know that they have a parking problem, and I know that Farmington High School is not going to alleviate the parking problem completely, but with the road tax that we're getting in, they would like to see if they could get some kind of commitment from the city for some kind of funds to help with that, adding additional, by just widening that road and adding angled parking into there. I'm like I say, I'm not representing them, but I'm bringing it up, and since we're talking about increasing for more road stuff, like I say, I promised them that I would bring that to you guys, and you guys can do what you want with it, but I'm going to keep bringing it up, okay?
All right. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
All right. Greg Ferguson.
Regrettably, he's had a personal matter he's had to.
Okay. Okay.
Do
Jeremy
one of you want
Cantor.
to speak for him?
No.
Can they do
No,
that?
we're
I'm
not.
sorry. I thought they could. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. But Jeremy Cantor. That's
Oh.
you. Great.
Oh, well then,
I didn't intend to speak tonight.
sorry. That was my...
No, that's all right.
Hi, welcome to myself, I guess. No, thank you. I'm with Residents Voices United on 89, or review89.org, revu89.org. I wanted to make some statements in regarding to the UDOT presentation that took place earlier without the opportunity for residents to address the council in open discussion. The issue may not be of the most interest to some, but it will be a significant impact to everyone on the way the citizenry live and use the city they love. In UDOT's purpose and needs statements of this SES that was presented tonight, UDOT has too narrowly defined the project's scope in order to achieve a predeterminate outcome. They've engaged in segmentation. In our little 4.5 miles community, a section of community, we're talking 3 major freeways are going in. The Legacy West, I-15, and then US 89. They've denied the cumulative impact that would require federal transportation oversight of this project. They've near totally diminished the mass transit aspects that could actually be implemented right now. The air quality, I reference a Salt Lake Tribune article from February 6th, 2017, from the American Lung Association, ranking Salt Lake City in the top 10 of worst air quality, with Davis County receiving an F in all categories. I want to also reference a University of Utah white paper that was just released, dated January 9th, 2018, titled "Bad Air Quality Along Utah's Wasatch Front Causes More Than 200 Pneumonia Cases Each Year," with the summary being all air pollution erodes the health of adults of over the age of 65, a population particularly vulnerable to the effects of pneumonia. Quote, "The results of our study are a call to action," as stated by Dean. "Wasatch Front air pollution is not just something to complain about, it is something that could kill us." I want to relate to the fact that basically the presentation from the previous SES and this SES are basically unchanged. Again, that predeterminate outcome. I want to applaud in the fact that Layton got changes. They used their city's master plan. They used their planning commission to actually get those changes implemented. So I ask anyone hearing or reviewing this tonight to contact and engage your planning commission right now. We are in an open public comment period, as Mike Ramiro suggested. I want to implore everyone and thank Council Member Barber for bringing up the 0.75%. It's actually an internal policy and guideline within UDOT. And if you listening tonight, do contact your council representative and ask them to go to UDOT on your behalf and request a proposal for increase. UDOT is required to review that policy, and we could get something like 4%, which was used on Legacy Parkway for aesthetics and trees and landscaping. The billboard concern, now this was something that UDOT told us in private session that they had made no commercial signage, but that is a city and legislative issue.
We'll listen
Thank
to
you. Do stay. We're going to take a break, and we'll hear the rest of your comments. First, it's going to be David Robinson. Thank you.
Where he represents a group, is he not entitled to another minute?
Take that at the end.
Yeah, thank you. Good sport. Thanks.
Thank you.
I know it'll be a great disappointment. At 10 o'clock, my mind shuts down, so I withdraw my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. Okay, that was our 5 people. So what we need to do now is, okay. We take the 5 people. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have it limited. Sorry about that. But do stay and we'll talk to you after, yeah? Okay. Well, it does say on the sheet. It said on the sign-up sheet what the requirements were. All right. We are going on, and now it is time for council member reports. Okay. Power. What do we know about power, James? Anything?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Community development.
Yeah, hey, just a quick thing. Had an opportunity with the mayor to attend economic breakfast over at Davis County Convention, and we talked about the quality of Utah actually, and how well we're doing. And just a quick report on Kaysville. As the permits this year, in 2017, we actually did 126 single-family homes were built. We had 45 solar installations, and we had another 333 other building permits, basements, additions, remodels, other things like that. And so we had over 500 permits this year, or in 2017. So I'm just saying, Kaysville is really doing well, and we appreciate that we're growing, and this is a great blessing for Kaysville.
Thank you. Public Works, Councilmember Garn, anything?
Well, I'm looking forward to Public Works. I've talked with Josh a little bit. Nothing specific to report there. However, I was able to attend the City Council meeting before this council meeting at 6 o'clock, and Councilmember Barber was also there, and very grateful to have. She'll be great in that role. But I just did want to say how much I appreciated working with the Youth City Council over the last 2 years. And when I first got here, there weren't very many members and not too many projects. And I showed up, and then it all didn't change until we had the idea, Councilmember Snell and I, to have a mayor of the City Council, and Emma Francis was elected to be mayor of the Youth City Council. Now they have 10, 12 members that regularly show up for every meeting. They have multiple service projects. They're very active, and so I'm very glad to see that although I had very little to do with it, the power of youth and the power of banding together to get things done. So
great. And anything from Parks and Rec?
Yes, so I'm excited. I'm going to be working with Parks and Rec Department, specifically on community events. We are going to be sending out some information on the events that you can look forward to this year, as well as a way for you to give feedback about what you like to see, what has worked well in the past. And the biggest plug I can put is that there's obviously a lot of attention and interest in our city, and we're so thankful for it. We don't have a ton in attendance today, so I'll wave at the camera and hope more people are viewing this or will watch it later. But please, we would love for you to get involved. We have lots of events coming up. We have lots of ways to volunteer with your city. It's a great way to get to know and give back. So if you're interested, you can email community@KaysvilleCity.com or myself, or find a way to get involved. And then I had one other item. Can I? Not on Parks and Rec, though.
Is it on one of your responsibilities? Then, no, not this time.
Does the rules also allow current projects
no.
to be discussed?
No. It's strictly
Did
about
we change
our...
that rule then?
Yeah,
Steve
we did.
Did allow it.
I know.
The rules of procedure say that the report shall be limited to updates on city projects and events that the council member is directly involved in or assigned to.
Yeah, okay.
Fall under that?
Is it a city project that you're involved with?
It was just a plug for the road fee open houses.
Oh, yes, please do that.
So in regards to the wonderful resident that made his comment about the road fee, the notice that went out, I just wanted to say we have an open house planned on January 24th that we would love residents to attend. I personally attended a Utah League and Cities of Town training, and it gave some really great ideas about information that we can bring and make available that evening. So I'm working really hard to answer some of those questions that are coming in, and feel free to let us know between now and then. It was all on transparency and budgeting, and I think that's an area we could really improve on, and hopefully together we can work towards a solution for our city. So please come to that, and then the public hearing February 1st at 6 p.m. as well. And anyway, my apologies for being out of order a little bit this whole evening.
Okay.
I will get better.
Okay, awesome. All right, now...
Can I comment on a current project?
Actually, no. We need to move. We're going to have a closed session. We'll take a break so that we can listen to these residents and then come back and do our closed session. Actually, if you want to send something in, it'll be public record, okay? I'll entertain a motion to move to closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Let's do 10 minutes and talk to our residents.